course, now with
of with COVID and the last 4 years and how much the supposed experts lied to us and got everything wrong, and because you're right, it's like everybody just bought the lie, and so they've assumed that quote unquote science was settled, quote unquote science was solid, all this the carbon dating, I mean all of that. Everybody was taught that for so many. We're getting better at this. I don't think we're there yet. Right? We have not countered the left's in taking the culture. The term culture war. Well, the culture war was waging only from one side for decades and decades and decades. I mean, the left has been at this since the 19-teens and 20s is when they really got started, and they have essentially conquered every area of the culture. If you think about it, in the last decade, we've seen a nearly complete domination of the sciences, certainly of the arts. I mean, from the Kennedy Center and the debacle there with even now with the Republican administration, a Republican appointee heading up the Kennedy Center, firing my friend Floyd Brown simply because of his position on traditional marriage that was most people on the planet's position until 15 minutes ago. So from the arts, from the Kennedy Center to, of course, Hollywood being so overtaken by the left, which used to be a machine for reinforcing America's values. If you think about the movies of the 40s and 50s and 60s even, Cecil B. DeMille and Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur and even television programs reinforced the values of the country. And now, of course, it's 90% tearing down those values. So the arts, the left owns the arts, they own the entertainment, they own the media, and most of the major networks and news sources, and half the pulpits in America, and the boardrooms of corporate America in business. I mean, you just go down the list. And I don't say that to depress you at all. I mean, I think it's just we have to assess the patient and recognize that's where the culture is. I say that to point out they worked really hard to get there. The left scratched and clawed in the trenches in the culture war while we did nothing, almost nothing. I mean, the American Family Association exists because Don Wildman saw this decades before most people, and said we've got to do something to stop this. What Robert Bork would say just a few years later after the beginning of American Family Association, the slouch towards Gomorrah. And that's if it weren't for guys like Don Wildman and Jerry Falwell and David Barton and D. James Kennedy and these other great warriors that said listen, we've got to engage in this. We had to actually get off our couches, get outside the four walls of our churches, and get into these areas of the culture to wage war, to wage cultural war, not physical war. All those, people that, all these left-wing organizations that listen to us and take our words out of context, it's metaphorically speaking, to essentially stand for what we believe, to counter the arguments of what these people have done in every one of these areas. All right, so I say all that to say that now we're doing better, much, much better. What we've highlighted today, 3 examples of incredible organizations that have done the hard work, raised significant money to do what they've done. I mean, Ken Ham, first class at the Creation Museum, at the Ark. I mean, just unbelievable how well they've done those things. Eric Hovind and the just the quality of the production and the programming that they're doing. ICR and doing the digs and the putting out the white papers and the information. I mean, these are necessary to win the culture. And then you look at the political side of things, and you look at the organizations that exist now. I mean, when Patriot Academy started 25 years ago, there's virtually no one in the space doing what we're doing, and still no one that does it quite like we do it in terms of training leadership and training people of all ages and all professions to be better citizens, actually putting them in the legislative simulation where they can experience how a constitutional republic works, and then teaching the Constitution in a fun, entertaining way and teach people how to be good biblical citizens. So we've got that down really well. We've cracked the code on how to do that effectively, and you should be a part of it if you're not already. PatriotAcademy.com. Go check that out. But then also over in entertainment and what we're seeing with what VidAngel has done, and these many others that are doing good production and putting out some great material. And then in journalism, trying to just yesterday we had Laura Logan with us at the Patriot Academy campus, and she was teaching on this very thing, how we've got to revive actual journalism and investigative journalism. So anyway, we can cover every area of the culture. It's getting better in terms of our, starting to say our defenses, but that's the problem. We were on defense for too long. Our offense, our ability to play offense in the culture war, actually taking ground back. And then, of course, with President Trump in the White House, it's a tremendous opportunity to do exactly that. It's the reason I emphasize here on the program so much the 250th in making the most of this next year. Now we're down to less than a year, not missing a single opportunity. And I'm talking to you. You're listening to me right now. What are you going to do to take ground back in your local community? First thing you can do is go to PatriotAcademy.com, sign up for the Rebuild Liberty class, and host one in your home, your church, somewhere in your community. Get started today. And in that class, we talk about the 12-step recovery program for America, and you just adopting one of those. All right, we're out of time for today, folks. I'll see you on Thursday. Walk with you tomorrow and again on Friday, but I'll be with you on Thursday. Thanks so much for listening. That course, we'll walk along the radio.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American
90.5 KTXG Greenville, Dallas.
How do you choose to stay informed? Sure, you can find all kinds of sources for information and commentary, but when you want them from a Christian perspective, turn to The Stand. Whether you choose to read the online blog or get the print version delivered to your mailbox, you can rest assured you'll receive factual news and biblically sound commentary. Find out more today at afa.net/The Stand.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
This is American Family News. I'm Robert Thornton. President Donald Trump held discussions with his counterpart from the Philippines today at the White House. The president commented on the recent revelations by Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard involving former President Barack Obama.
The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up all the way going up to 2020 of the election. It's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper.
The report outlined by Gabbard showed Obama ordered staff to ignore intelligence reports that showed Russia was not interfering in the 2016 election and had them craft a plan using known false claims, the opposite. An Obama judge favors Planned Parenthood in a ruling over Medicaid funds. A provision in the recently passed Big Beautiful Bill ends Medicaid payments for 1 year to abortion providers that received more than $800,000 from Medicaid in 2023. A Boston judge granted a preliminary injunction yesterday that, for now, blocks the government from cutting Medicaid payments to Planned Parenthood member organizations. In the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, the World Health Organization wanted more global power, and some believe it would like to have its thumb on the U.S. regarding a future pandemic. But the Trump administration acted recently to protect U.S. sovereignty as the United States rejected amendments adopted in 2024 by members of the WHO to its legally binding health rules aimed at what it calls improving preparedness for pandemics. Tim Walberg, U.S. Representative from Michigan, stopped by Washington Watch.
What a unique thought that we would not be a globalist country, but rather stand firmly on the fact that America ought to be leading the world and doing it independently, respecting our sovereignty, our founding principles, our people, and our freedoms. And we don't do that by joining with any other entity and letting them chart the course.
He said the WHO was tied to China during COVID and that the U.S. suffered from it.
And certainly we weren't taken care of medically and in health-wise during that process as well. And you would think we would learn, But there are still people who have been brainwashed to think that someone else has to watch out for America doing the wrong things for its people.
He went on to say the WHO won't stop their efforts in trying to control the U.S. unless we separate from them in a solid fashion. Billboards warning of hospital closures are popping up near rural health centers as Democrats continue their resistance to the One Big Beautiful Bill. Here's Fox's Jared Halpern.
The Democratic National Committee posted billboards near hospitals in Silix, Missouri, Stillwell, Oklahoma, and Missoula, Montana, blaming cuts on President Trump and Republican support for the One Big Beautiful Bill. A statement from the DNC says the billboards are to make sure rural voters know who is responsible for gutting rural health care. Democrats and some Republicans opposed the legislation over concerns cuts to Medicaid would threaten rural health centers and kick millions of Americans off the health insurance program. President Trump is urging Republicans to talk about the bill as midterm campaigns ramp up, insisting tax cuts and border enforcement spending are very popular with voters. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Fox Weather says rain is in the forecast along the Gulf Coast this week. Downpours are possible from Florida to Louisiana, especially along the Interstate 10 corridor from Tallahassee to New Orleans. Some flooding is possible, and the heat will continue to affect many parts of the eastern half of the country throughout the week and the weekend. After all, it is late July. And some storms are possible along the edge of the heat dome. Fox Weather's Craig Herrera.
We got waves of energy and a lot of this moving over this big ring of high pressure. Coming up and over that ridge is the fuel and the spark for some of these storms that are going to be severe.
Heat index values are forecast to reach 100 110 degrees at times. And that is all our time for now. You can find more news online at afm.net. I'm Robert Thornton.
Are you a new small group leader looking for a strong curriculum? Even if you've been a leader for years, there's always a need for tools to help you as you help others deepen their love for God and their Bible knowledge. AFA Stream is a great resource. With topics covering biblical worldview training, godly marriage, and more, you'll have access to some of the best teaching available. And if you're a Great Commission partner, you open up even more. Visit stream.afa.net today. Stream.afa.net.
Hello, and welcome to the Dr. Nurse Mama Show, prescribing hope for healthy families here on American Family Radio. Here's your host, Professor, Pediatric Nurse Practitioner and Mama, Dr. Jessica Peck.
Well, hey there, friends, and welcome to my favorite part of the afternoon, getting to spend time with you, prescribing hope for healthy families. And we've got a great dose of it for you here today. Today we are talking about God as the architect and creator of science. Now, I am a science nerd. If you've ever seen the credentials after my name, all of those letters listed, some people think, oh, wow, look at those credentials. And I say, yes. Do you know what they spell? They spell, I need a new hobby, because I am a nerd. I love learning. I love science. And as a nurse, I really appreciate the intersection of faith and science. And I know that science is just always working to catch up with Scripture. Things that we learn, scientific advances, they're there in the Scripture. And we look back and think, yes, God told us that He knows this, and now we are just learning how. Like looking at even one of the things that amazes me most about science is mapping DNA, mapping the human genome. Now, I am dating myself here at great peril, but I will do it. I will step out on a stage of humiliation and say I am older than the mapping of DNA. I went to school before, and I got my master's degree as a pediatric nurse practitioner before the human genome was even mapped. And we're learning so much about science, and we're seeing that